Boom, we're going. What was the name of the song, sorry, for Guitar Hero?
Through the Fire and Flames, I think, right?
I remember that game was so addicting. I was terrible at it, but I loved that game.
That game was legendary, man. That like
Through the Fire, it was like the hardest song on there, right?
yeah.
And the guy's hands. I had a buddy who used to play it, and we'd go to his basement, and I would just sit there for hours and just watch him play. Like, I wouldn't even play myself. Like, I'd give it a go, and I would just watch him. His hands looked like he had Tourette's. Like, you could just go like, oh, you can't say Tourette's.
No, you're fine.
Anyways, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the High Button Podcast. I think I've said that 4 times already now with the intro and then everything going on here. It's myself, Jeff. Friday afternoon podcast. Nothing better than to wrap up the week with a little conversation with your producer. What was your reaction yesterday when you saw that Martin St. Louis was the head coach of the Montreal Canadiens?
Oh, I kind of like it. I mean, I think that Montreal is in a good space right now where they don't really have anything to lose. They just had a great run at the Cup. They're missing all their important guys, so you can always lean back on that. Obviously, St. Louis doesn't have a lot of coaching experience and none in the NHL, so it's kind of just like an experiment. Like Rob Brind'Amour, or I think I said that right, from the Hurricanes. Like, he didn't have any experience before he went there. And now they're like one of the best teams. So you never know, man. It's a shot in the dark. It's a shot in the dark, I think.
Yeah, 100%. It's an interesting move for sure. I wonder where the relationship came in for Martin St. Louis. Like, who knew him best? I heard it was Jeff Gordon. I heard that their kids knew one another, and then that's kind of how the relationship was formed. Because if you think about it, like, I know Martin St. Louis from Laval, so he must have some connections, obviously, in the Montreal area. But I've always wondered, like, not always, but as of yesterday, I was like, where was that connection made?
Well, now that you mention that,
Jeff Gordon was in New York.
Yeah, he played for the Rangers, but St. Louis played for the Rangers at the end of his career.
Yeah, so that might have been where the connection started.
That's probably I guess.
But Martin St. Louis, he's the definition, I'm pretty sure, Tortorella said this. He was a pain in the ass to coach, but he was one of those guys who you need in your dressing room and you need on the ice. So essentially translating into, he was exactly what a coach wanted out of a player. But it'll be interesting to see if he is a coach that players want. It'll be interesting to see if it turns around the other way. And it was cool. I think TSN showed the game yesterday, and they were showing little snippets, not even during the play, just that intermission or during a commercial. And I don't know, the score was like 2-0, 3-1 or something, and you could just tell the body language was down on the bench. And Martin St. Louis, he goes over and taps Caulfield. He goes over and talks to Anderson. He goes over and talks to the backup. And I don't know what the hell he's saying, but his body language was Martin St. Louis' body language was definitely different than the players on the bench, and it was just refreshing to see, I guess. It's just nice to have a look of a guy that comes in who has a fresh perspective on a team that's arguably at the AHL level right now.
Yeah, there's not much of an argument, man. I think you nailed it. I think it is good, man. And like, now that you kind of mentioned like Caulfield and all those, I mean, what's Martin St. Louis known for being? He's known for being the best small guy ever.
He's an underdog.
So for him to be able to kind of mentor Caulfield, even if it is for half a season or however long he's there, that could actually go a long way, because Caulfield, in my opinion, is their best prospect, and he's also very small. So, you kind of have to, when you first get into the league, you kind of have to learn how to play in the league as a small guy. So, I mean, what's better than having St. Louis as your coach? Makes sense there. It's interesting to contrast it to the Oilers hiring, where they're much further down the line in terms of like they need to win now, and they can't really afford to take a chance on like someone like St. Louis who hasn't been in the NHL level at coaching. So they needed to go with like a more traditional option. But it's just interesting, like within 2 days, these two Canadian teams get new coaches, both just totally different directions. Both took different directions, so it'll be interesting to see. And I don't give St. Louis any crap either right now, because it's going to take him a while to implement any type of strategies he wants into that team regardless. So unfortunately, Dom,
that's Old Moosehead's coach.
Yeah.
It's not his fault. I was talking to Bernard about this the other day. He was like, "Yeah, you got the short end of the stick there. It's not his fault."
No.
But if you're a fan of Montreal and you're a season ticket holder, you have to see change. And unfortunately, that comes down to the coach's position. You can't just start letting players go, sending them down, sending them up. That's not going to do anything. You have to make drastic change. And even though did it help? No, it doesn't. It doesn't matter if Ducharme was behind the bench or St. Louis. They're still going to lose to Washington. But you have to make change in order to keep.
Yeah.
You know, you got to. You gotta look like you're working. You can't just, if you're a general manager, you can't just sit up in the press box, drink coffee, and look down and shake your head. You actually have to make moves to show the fans that you're actually doing something.
Yeah, I don't think I'd be very surprised if Habs fans were like really had any ill will towards Ducharme at this point.
No,
you know,
he'll
like
find a job next
yeah.
year. So this summer, I bet people are reaching out already.
Yeah, and that's always the question in hockey too. It's like it's like, okay, if you're a GM, your team's doing this bad, to your point, what are you going to do? Fire your coach, bring someone fresh in, hope that things start clicking with this team you've spent years building, or are you going to tear down your roster? Like, it's a no-brainer. You're going to get rid of the coach. Like, it happens all the time. There's no quick fix to a roster that's like injured and beat up and just not good enough. But there is a quick fix in firing your coach and bringing someone else in. So
yeah. Makes you look
sense.
active. It makes you look active. I'll admit I haven't watched many Montreal Canadian games this year. It's tough to watch, but I was switching back and forth last night between Pittsburgh because I want to see Sid get his 500th goal, which didn't happen, unfortunately. Which, by the way, if that happens, I don't want it to be an empty netter because he almost got an empty netter last night, but he passed it off to Rust. Actually, no, he probably couldn't have got that in anyways. But you don't want to see a 500th career goal in an empty net.
Yeah.
No, I mean, that's not the point. So I was switching back and forth from Pittsburgh game to Montreal game because you want to watch the Montreal game just in case. Like I think Gallagher's first game back was yesterday as well. Maybe not second game back, but you wanted to see a little bit of jump. And I know in the press conference, St. Louis said, "I don't want to implement systems. I want to implement a free-flowing game and let my best players make their decision on the ice. Essentially, read and react type of hockey, which there's nothing wrong with. But even yesterday, obviously, you can't implement a coaching system that quickly. He was there for 12 hours." Which was crazy. Like he did the press conference at noon, and he was behind the bench.
He probably didn't even meet the players until like 3 hours before the game or something. Like,
well, I want to talk about the press conference in a sec, but nonetheless, when you were watching the game, even the power play breakout, just nothing. Even when they're in the zone on the power play, just nothing. And then I was switching back and forth, like I said, to Pittsburgh. Well, all good.
Yeah, I'm just saying the highlights came on for the
right
game.
there. Like,
yeah.
look at that. Like, you know. That's not good. And then I was, like I said, I was switching back and forth to Pittsburgh, and the next thing you know, I'm watching Pittsburgh on the power play. And passes are sharp, crisp. There's no second guessing. It's like, okay, Letang's at the point, Malkin's over here, pass. No second guessing. And then you switch back to the Montreal game, and you're like, oh, okay, this team has a lot of work in order just to be considered a regular NHL team. They're not. Yeah. It's not even. It's not even fun. Like, there's no point kicking them while they're down, but there's a lot of work that needs to be done by Martin St. Louis and the team because.
Yeah. And, dude, they're getting, like, think about the fact that Weber, just to your point there, Weber and Price are gone. Like, they're not there right now. So your point of, like, Crosby being able to, like, the foundation in Pittsburgh is set, right? Mm-hmm. The foundation in Montreal was set until the start of this year when they lost their two most important veterans. So, like, who's there to lead the team besides Gallagher, who's been injured half the year? So yeah. I think that plays into a lot of it, right? Like, the culture and just, like, everything in Pittsburgh, having Crosby back, like, you know, having Malkin back. I think makes a big difference.
I think Price's stock went up. He took that team to the Cup Finals last year. And now everybody, maybe some people didn't think that, you know, like, I think everyone agrees, like, Price is a big part of that team. Excuse me. But essentially, it's a very similar team, minus Weber. And now Price is gone. You can't say that Price didn't have 95% of something to do with going to that Cup final.
Definitely the Cup final. But the team should be better than they are right now regardless.
Yeah, but they're not. That's the thing.
Yeah.
And would they have made the Cup final last year without Price? I think most people would agree. Absolutely not. How old is Price? Because when Tuukka Rask released his retirement statement on I think it was the Boston Bruins Twitter account, I was looking at the comments below, and there was a lot of Montreal Canadiens fans going, I hope we don't get the same letter from Price. And that kind of threw me off guard. I was like, is that actually a consideration, Carey Price retiring?
He's 34. I don't know. I don't know really. No one really knows what the situation is with Price right now, which makes it kind of tough. But I don't think he's done. I think he'll be back playing for the Habs at some point, hopefully here. But
You
how old was Tuukka? So he's 34. Tuukka's 34, so they're the same age.
Wow, that's very interesting.
And how old is Pekka Rinne, who was like another guy who came up with them who retired last year for Nashville? He's 39. Okay, so he's older. But
there's something about having
that whole era of goalies.
Well, that's the thing. Like I think about back when I was like Pee-wee, like young, like going on road trips, and you're watching these goalies, Martin Brodeur, you're watching Patty Waugh, and you see these guys lift cups. They're the best goalies in the world. And I look at Carey Price in Montreal. He's the best goaltender in the world, and it would be weird to see that guy not lift a Stanley Cup. And you got to think about it too. I'm not going to say Patty Waugh. He didn't go cup chasing, but he went to Colorado. He left Montreal. He went to Colorado to win a cup,
and they won right away.
But they did win in Montreal. Well, they won in Montreal as well. But does it? Let me ask you this: do you think it damages Price's legacy in Montreal if he goes somewhere else and try to win the cup? And he does win a cup.
It's such a hard.
You have to think about that because people in Montreal, they're Montreal or die.
I'd say no because like.
Do you think they'd be happy for him?
I think yes, I do because he's been the heart and soul and like.
Yeah, but
it's hard with hockey. Like with these other sports, like there's a lot of ring chasing that goes on. Hockey doesn't really have the ring chasing mentality as much, or the NHL doesn't. It like there's not really
again
like, yeah, but that's like when you're at the end of your contract and like
yeah, but he's still signing with Pittsburgh. Like he's still going to Colorado. He's still signing with these top end teams to try to he's not signing in Arizona to golf.
Yeah, but
I think it matters to these guys.
Price was willing to move his no trade to go to Seattle when he got exposed this past summer though, and they were a bottom of the barrel team.
Oh, was he?
Remember? Yeah, like they had the chance to pick him up and they didn't because his contract's like $9 million or whatever it is, or $10 million.
Is he's still getting that salary this year, isn't he?
Yeah. I assume so. But yeah, that's a good question, man. Like I said, I think in hockey it's less so, but I do think if Price like if it was time to move on and he went to like it'd have to be a team they like too. If he went to like Boston, forget about it. But like if he went to like I don't know, Carolina, or something like that,
Anderson's
I think maybe
good,
it would
though.
have a difference. Yeah, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying like a team that doesn't have any.
A team that's good but has terrible goaltending.
Or a team that has no history with the Habs.
Yeah, like maybe go to the Western Conference.
Yeah,
go to like.
And if he goes and wins it's like if he goes and wins a cup with a Western Conference team,
I was just thinking about that the other day when they were showing the Montreal game. He was up there in his cowboy hat and he had the mask on. He's sitting there watching. I'm thinking, what is that guy thinking right now? Is he thinking retirement? Is he thinking I want a cup? Is he thinking I want a trade? Is he thinking? I was just thinking, like, what is this guy thinking right now?
I'm thinking he wants to be on the Habs again.
Yeah. So do you think winning a cup matters to Carey Price?
I think it would probably matter to anyone, but I don't think it's. I don't know.
I think there's guys. I don't get me wrong. If you're playing the NHL, I think everyone wants to win a Stanley Cup. I've heard you play your first game. You don't really care if you win, lose, get a goal. You just want to play your first game to say you've played in the NHL. But apparently, when you play your second game, it's more about, okay, how can I stay here? And then once you have a full year, apparently your mindset goes to, okay, Stanley Cup. That's what I've.
That makes sense
it's just
to me.
Like so, you play your first game. You don't care about money. You don't care about a cup. You don't care. You just want to. You want to be on Hockey DB, Elite Prospects. I played a game. Second game, you want to stay. Apparently, the mindset is, how do I stay here for the year? How do I need to be here, here, here. You get a full year. Apparently, the mindset goes to cup. But then there's other guys, they just want, they're there for the money.
Did you go through that similar, like obviously on a lesser level, but still high enough when you were going to the Mooseheads, like getting that first game and just playing a game in a Mooseheads jersey, that's all you cared about? And then the minute that game was done, you wanted to stay?
Yeah, that's very, well, I wanted to play a game in the Metro Center. I played multiple games like preseason and regular season away, like in PEI, Cape Breton, and it was cool, but it didn't have that same effect as the Metro Center. I wanted to play that first game in the Metro Center, and then you're right. Once you experience it and you understand how cool it is, then it's like, yeah, I need to stay here. I'll do whatever it takes to stay here. But I didn't stay long enough to be like, okay, I need to be here for a year, let alone win a President Cup or Mem Cup. So it's not.
You got to the second stage.
I got to second base with the Cube. I got the second base for sure.
Yeah.
But I couldn't imagine being at a point like some of these guys that have legacies in Montreal or just in the NHL that haven't won a cup. I can guarantee you that there's something about them that wants to retire, go to the golf course, and have that Stanley Cup ring
Oh,
plug in his ear. There's definitely something about a guy that's been in the NHL for a long period of time that definitely needs that credential just to feel completed in the game of hockey. Imagine winning like a World Junior, you win a World Cup, you get a gold medal in the Olympics, and then you go to the NHL and you just can't get the. I don't know. Maybe
that's literally Carey Price, man. He's won everywhere he's ever been.
It's a lot
He's
of
the
guys.
best goalie in Canada.
Joe Thornton's one of those guys who could knock that off the. Florida could win the cup this year. I'm not.
Yeah,
I'll knock on wood here right now, but like Joe Thornton's that guy right now that needs to get a cup to go sailing off into the sunset. And he's in Florida right now, so no pun intended. He could go sailing off into the sunset with a Stanley Cup ring plug in his ear. I don't know.
Olympic gold medals,
I think
world
he's won World
championships.
Juniors too.
Yeah, he probably was on the World Junior team. Rookie of the year, scoring titles, but he doesn't have the cup. So,
but
it's hard to win in the NHL, man.
I think it's the hardest sport.
Yeah,
to win
this
in the
discussion,
NFL.
This discussion right now is just making me realize, I think it probably is.
If Tampa can three-peat this year, you can't tell me Hollywood isn't going to come chasing and make a movie about this. A three-peat in hockey in the cap era.
Yeah, it's really hard.
Ooh.
But, Tampa's got all their tricks up their sleeve, man. You know how they operate. Kucherov, I'm sure, will be back for the playoffs again. I'd love to see Florida knock them off, though. Like the Battle of Florida. I think we got it last year, didn't we? And then Tampa beat them, so
I don't know. Maybe. I did want to ask you about the Marchand suspension and what you thought of it.
Oh, but you didn't put me on the spot. It was
But before you answer,
not good.
Just know he might be sitting in that chair next year, so he might.
Well,
so,
anyone who knows me knows I'm a Marchand fan, which is, I know, kind of a hard take, but I always just, regardless of what it is, I try to support the Nova Scotians, and especially someone who grew up like 15 minutes away from me. But I don't know. That was his second suspension of the year. I don't know what he was thinking on it. I think most of the stuff he does, like I'm cool with, because he's like the best rat in the league and the best rat in the world, probably when it comes to hockey. But I just don't know what he was thinking with that one. That's all. Like,
I think we've all been there. We've all gotten to the point where you want to win and you can lose your cool and maybe not think about ethics, especially in hockey. Well, I don't think there really is ethics in hockey, but in any aspect of life, when you want something bad enough and Marchand, all he wants to do is win, sometimes things like that happen. And there's how many people are in the world? 6 billion people in the world. Each and every one of us react differently to when something doesn't go your way. And maybe a game like Pittsburgh where, one of his buddies Sid's across the ice and he's getting to a couple points. I don't know if Marshy had any points. It was a frustrating game for him. I was watching the whole time. And when things don't go your way, you can act out. I know a lot of people won't agree with me saying, he's a rat, he's a piece of shit, he's all this. I get it. But at the end of the day, he's a great hockey player. I've heard stories about him off the ice being a great person and helping others. But sometimes you lose your cool, and unfortunately, they play on a national television size scale, and the whole world's going to see, and he knows that. And hey, if I was the coach, I wouldn't care. It sucks they're going to have him for not 6 games, but you can't tell me 6 games from now you still don't want that guy in your lineup every single night competing for that big B on the jersey. The big yellow bee.
Yeah, I agree. Like, that's what I was saying. Like, a lot of the stuff he gets in trouble for, I don't give him too much crap for. Like, if it's because that, I feel like those are things that actually help his team in theory win. Like a slew foot, greasy to no end. Like, hit from behind, all this stuff's greasy. But at least you're taking a player out of it. This one, I'm just not. The play was over, right, and the goalie was getting up. So I don't really know how him doing the punch this time helped his team.
Yeah, I'm not saying what he did was right. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that his intention is to win. And if you're in the business of hockey, that's all you need to do is win.
Right. And I'd say most of his problems do help the team win, but I'm just saying in that one case yesterday, how did that 2 days ago,
3, I don't know.
Whatever it was, how did that specific instance help them win is what I'm saying. Most of the time.
No, it didn't.
Yeah.
It didn't help.
It's just instinct. Yeah.
Competitive nature. I love it.
Yeah.
I don't love what he did, but I love the competitive nature and how you can't handle losing. Like it's a twitch. It's like, you lose? No, it's not. I got to do whatever it takes not to lose. There's 30 seconds left in the game. Like he just couldn't handle losing. I love that. I don't like what he did, but I love where his head was at. Just think, I can't lose. He's got that. You can't. Some people don't understand that feeling. I'm lucky enough to understand it. I've lost many of lacrosse games, many hockey games. I've lost things in business before. And there's a part of you that just eats away. I can't lose.
I know.
It's a feeling that.
Yeah. I think that shows you're competitive.
100%.
Yeah.
It's a blessing and a curse to have that feeling.
It is, yeah, a blessing and a curse to be like when that's the most important thing to you, winning at anything you do. It's
oh my god.
Yeah.
Stanley Cup plug in my ear.
You love that.
I couldn't hear.
Do you remember watching that live?
No, it was like TSN in the morning. Who was it that was chirping him? Hall?
No, it was Jeremy Roenick.
I couldn't hear what Jeremy said because I have my 2 Stanley Cup ring plug in my ear.
Yeah, because he said he had to get his jock strap from the rafters.
Yeah,
Roenick did.
He said like Madonna was playing at the rink before or something like that, and like. They're saying something about like how someone's bra was stuck up in the.
No, that's what I'm saying. His jock strap, because Roenick dangled him so hard, his jock strap ended up in the rafters. Yeah, and then after that's when Wah said, "I don't know, I couldn't hear that chirp. I've got the Stanley Cup rings plug in the ears."
I couldn't hear what.
Because I don't think Roenick ever won one. To our point about legends never winning one.
I don't know if he did or not.
I don't think he did, man.
But yeah, I agree with what you say about like that's not the mentality in hockey compared to basketball. I think basketball might be the only sport where that's a huge mentality. I don't know if NFL players are essentially chasing rings. They just want to win football games. You would know more than I do.
Yeah, the NFL is like a weird one where if you really like hate your team enough, you can pretty much just like refuse to play. And I guess it's like that in basketball too. Like they have that in common. You can just like, or you could just be annoying and be like Odell Beckham this year. Yeah. He didn't want to be on Cleveland. He kicked up a stink to go to a better team. And then they were like, "Well, if you're not going to play for us, I guess we'll release you." And then he basically had free reign to sign where he want. Ended up on the Rams, and now he's in the Super Bowl.
I feel like he's a privileged player, though. I feel most players, are just happy to be in the NFL.
Yeah, well, there's a lot more players in the NFL than there are the NHL, so that is the case. But we're talking, when we come to ring chase, and we're talking about players who have the privilege of being able to do it. It's just if they do it, right? Price has, like, in theory, the privilege to ring chase because he's the best Canadian goalie in the world. But, like, and Odell has the chance to ring chase. One of them did it, clearly. Refused, like, chirped his quarterback, literally did whatever he could to not play for the Browns and then end up on the Rams. So I would say that the NBA is by far the worst. Kevin Durant was the one who like kind of set that precedent when he left Oklahoma City. Yeah.
Westbrook now in Philly. Or not
Westbrook. No, Harden.
Harden's now in Philly, and then Simmons went to.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
That was craziest trade,
Simmons
man.
hasn't played a game yet this year, has he?
No, that's a perfect example. Dude, he won't even meet with his teammates. Have you seen any of that stuff? Like,
I saw
that is the most ridiculous player in any of the big four right now.
I saw in training camp he was playing and he had his phone in his pocket, like he was playing defense during training camp, and he had these baggy shorts on and his phone was like vibrating in his pocket.
That's like when you get the earbud in during hockey warm-ups. Or like when I used to play intramural hockey, you'd put the earbud in and you'd listen to music on the ice. That's like that equivalent in basketball. Keep the phone in the pocket.
Could you imagine just making? I'm assuming he makes $35 million a year or something like that, and just not today, not for me. I'm not gonna go to Philly, eat a cheesesteak. I gotta go somewhere else because these people don't like me.
Dude,
can you imagine?
No, I can't. And the fact that like there was like the story that came out like a month ago or something where he said, where it was like, the teammates, Joel Embiid and like all these guys he had beef with on his own team wanted to come visit him at his home because he refused to like go to the arena pretty much. And they wanted to come visit him at his home, and he basically told them like, "Nah, like I'm cool. Like anything you guys say isn't gonna make me come back." So he just stayed home, and it just never happened. And then he complained that his teammates weren't making enough of an effort. So that guy's just. And then yesterday, as soon as he gets traded, his agent puts out a statement. Ben is excited for this move, and he's ready to ramp it up. This is a great step in the right direction. It's like, dude, what are you even talking about? You just like held like insane, these guys. Like this is a great step in the right direction. It's like you just held your team hostage for a year after playing one of the worst playoff series I've ever seen in my life last year. And now you're saying, okay, yeah, you know what? Maybe he will go play with Durant, one of the best players in the league, and Kyrie. Yeah, you know what? This is a good step. We like this.
And Brooklyn's in contention too. They're good.
Well, yeah, it was Harden wasn't playing any D. That's another guy who just basically stopped playing his way out of a city.
What is going on right now?
Dude, that's how the NBA rolls, man. It's crazy. There's like literally like hundreds of stories of that happening.
Really?
Yeah. And then it's crazy.
What I would do to be in Philly right now, making $35 million a year, cheesesteaks all around me, dunking on people. I'd give up a lot. Like, sounds like a great time. Sounds like a lot of fun.
Man.
I don't
It's
know why would I ever be upset about that.
I think Simmons went first overall, so there's like a bit of that privilege, right? You go, like he's he's got.
There's a lot of these. I remember reading about him way back, and they were saying he's the next LeBron. Like, didn't he sign with Nike for like $100 million coming out of college?
That's like I'm guilty of this too. Like when it comes to hockey, like you just you buy into the hype of these prospects so much, and you're like, this is the sickest guy ever. Like this is the next Crosby, like Lafreniere in the NHL. Like I totally bought into him, and obviously he's only a few years in, but you
can't be doing, like, who's the other guy in New Orleans right now? He's
Oh,
overweight.
Zion Williamson.
He was
he can't even play. He's so overweight at this point. He can't recover from his injuries.
He was in a Mountain Dew commercial, and he was like 40 pounds overweight playing video games. That was the best commercial ever. It was amazing. He looked like he was just an actor in the commercial playing video games, eating, drinking Mountain Dew.
You're like, no, this is actually like Duke's best prospect, allegedly, next LeBron, and like, yeah, it's quite something.
That guy had another funny incident when he was playing, I think it was one of his last games in Duke, and he didn't sign because he obviously can't sign back then, but he had a pair of Nike shoes on, and he broke the Nike shoe mid-game, and he fell out of it, and like he tweaked his ankle or something like that. And then they went to all these NBA players around the league, and they were like, if you were Zion right now, would you play another game for Duke knowing that he has a $100 million contract to sign in like 3 months? And all these players were just like, nah, like if I knew back in college that I was signing for $100 million, I would never, ever play college. I'd play one game, show the people what I could do, and then just wait. And I remember watching that, and Zion like responded to what all these NBA players were saying about that. And there was part of him that was like, yeah, I kind of agree. And like you could kind of see Coach K in the background of the practice, not listening, but he was just like kind of there. And I remember thinking like, it's an interesting perspective, that college game.
Well, yeah.
And just seeing Zion in the middle of it, he's like, nah, I understand, but I'm gonna put on for Duke. I'm gonna put on.
Yeah, that's why they want to get rid of the college, like the thing, right? Like LeBron never went to like college
with a high school rate. But then I think after that year they made the rule you had to play
that's what I'm saying. But they were trying to bring it back because it's like, I mean, like when you kind of think about it on a larger scale, it's like these players who, like you said, are probably good enough to go right into the league. They're forced to make a decision about a school and like make money for the school they go to, but for what, like before that, like last year they didn't see any of the money. So it's basically like you're just using Zion didn't see any money during his years at Duke. Like, so why someone who's ready to be in the NBA, why is he forced to play for a college?
I liked what those ball kids did. They went to Europe.
Oh yes, that was very interesting.
I was like, they made money.
Well, they went to Europe because like they kind of had to. They had all committed to UC. Well, Lonzo went through UCLA. Then LiAngelo, the middle brother, he got caught stealing in China, so they cut him from.
What?
Yeah, dude, this is like a classic story.
I thought you said he played for UCLA.
Yes, so he was in UCLA, and like they were doing one of the games where they went overseas preseason.
Oh, so UCLA went to China.
Yes, this is after Lonzo had been drafted. LiAngelo goes into a Gucci store or something, steals sunglasses, which is ridiculous.
I got to interrupt you. LiAngelo is the guy who's not in the NBA,
Yes, he's
right?
the middle one, okay?
Yeah.
So this is the second kid. So Lonzo went through UCLA, no problem. LiAngelo, preseason, they go to China to play some games. He steals sunglasses, and as you know, stealing in China is a little different than stealing around here. And basically, the UCLA cut him, even though he was like their most marketable guy because he was part of the Ball family. And then LeVar got mad and was like, okay, well, if LiAngelo's cut, then LaMelo, who's this guy who just made the All-Star game, the youngest brother, who's probably the best, he was like, okay, well, he's not playing for UCLA anymore because you just cut my middle son. So then he took those two sons and then went overseas to Europe.
So the dad got mad at the team because
Yeah.
his son stole sunglasses in China.
And then they cut him. So he was like, oh, like what? Like, yeah, he got mad at him, and he's like, okay, well then my best kid, my best basketball player, LaMelo,
Plays in Charlotte.
he's not
who is
gonna play.
unbelievable.
Yeah, like, cause dude, I remember like looking like LaMelo had been committed to UCLA since he was like 15 years old
Ugh.
because Lonzo went there. But then the minute LiAngelo got cut, he took that commitment back, and then he just never ended up.
What?
And then there was like also a bunch of stuff with their own brand and sneakers, and like you couldn't play in the NCAA if you
remember
had
all
your own
this.
brand. Like
Yeah.
it was a huge thing, and it's kind of funny to see.
I remember.
What's
I
come
remember
of it.
that whole thing with the Triple B, but I didn't know about the China and the stealing glasses. That's
I think it was a combination about the Triple B and like LaMelo wanting his own shoes and not being allowed, and then like also them cutting them like LiAngelo. Was just.
I wonder if UCLA gave him a lift back from China.
I don't think they did, man. I think that a bunch of them like. I think, yeah.
You
you
imagine those are
gotta-
kids. Like you can't just take a kid to China and he gets caught stealing. You can't give him a lift back. Yeah, he's out of the-
Dude, he was in jail or prison or whatever it was.
So the dad had to fly over to China.
No,
and pick
I
him up?
actually think that like if you look it up now, I think like Trump, because that was when he was president. I think he kind of like pulled a pardon and got him back.
America is a freak show. Like,
Yeah.
how is that a thing? A president, just because he's famous, he goes, yeah, I'm gonna get him out of. I'm gonna get him out
I
of
actually
prison.
think if you Google it, that's what ended up happening. But it's pretty crazy.
That's that's amazing. That's incredible, actually. Like, if I was the one who got caught stealing sunglasses and Trump bailed me out of prison,
It's just because he had a
I'd
big
be pumped.
name.
I'd be like, yeah.
It's just because he had a big name, right? Like the ball name at that point in BBB was huge, so it helped him out.
Scrolling through Twitter yesterday, as I do, which I love to do on my time off.
Same.
And not even time on, I'll scroll through Twitter. And I saw an interesting tweet, and I don't know who tweeted it, but it said, McDavid is coming to Buffalo, folks. And when I saw this tweet, I went directly to the NHL schedule thinking, oh, they must have a game in Buffalo on the schedule tonight. And then I said, whoa, Edmonton's not in Buffalo for forever. And then like I do, I get to the bottom of things. I do research. I look into things. I don't just look at things at the surface and go, oh, I don't take it for face value. What I do is I click on the tweet and I read the comments. I do my own research. I put my glasses
Very
on.
admirable.
I get a pen and a piece of paper. I write down, okay, what's this tweet about? And he was serious about next year. If they don't make the playoffs, he thinks that McDavid's going to go to Buffalo, which makes absolutely no sense. But with that being said, if Edmonton doesn't make the playoffs, if Edmonton doesn't go past the first round, if Edmonton, we can go on and on about ifs, whens, what's, buts, ifs, you know what I mean? What happens to McDavid next year if nothing happens in Edmonton this year?
Well, that's the golden question, right? And I'm going to tell you nothing because
Oh my God.
he's got – dude, here's my question to you.
You're looking at that house video and his girlfriend built the house. You're like, why would he leave that house?
I'm looking at it from the hockey side of, wait, didn't Zach Hyman just sign a 6-year extension last year with us so he could play with McDavid for at least like the next 3 years, or Draisaitl the next 3 years? That's on their contract.
I feel like there's a lot of Hymans in the NHL.
I don't think so, considering he signed for like one of the biggest contracts last year.
How much is he making this
for
year?
like $7 million or something like that. Yeah. But that like, yeah, he was one of their best free agent signings like in a while. So my question is, was McDavid and Draisaitl sitting? There was definitely, you can look back at it. Ken Holland said, I talked with McDavid, with Nugent Hopkins, Nurse, Draisaitl, and McDavid. He talked to them about which players they want.
Really?
Hyman was, yes. There's articles on it. You can literally see it. There's direct quotes.
He said this publicly.
Yes, he says, I talked to my captains and my assistants who they want. Like, what's he going to hide? We all know that they're trying to build up a team around these guys. So he said, which players do you want? And McDavid clearly wanted Hyman. If you don't think they talked before and said, listen, things in Edmonton, let's be real. they're all over the place. You know, one minute we could be winning, one minute we could be winning, the next we couldn't. He's not talking. They're saying, and then after 1 year, you think McDavid and Draisaitl could be like, oh, thanks for signing here.
1 year, he's been there for
Hyman. I'm saying Hyman. He's like these meetings last year when this is just my question to you to start us off with. Do you that's honestly you think he's gonna be like he's talked to these guys, he's brought them in, like this is pretty much like the guys he's wanted. This isn't the first time we've done this. McDavid wanted Lucic in there. We signed him to a big contract. He stuck around through all of that until Lucic was gone last year. And did everyone forget the fact that the Oilers had their best start of the season? Like they went like 20-7 or something to start this year. They had the best start of the year. Listen, I know it's easy to freak out and say these guys are going to leave. I do. But McDavid signed an 8-year contract like 2 years ago or 3 years ago. Draisaitl signed an 8-year contract 3 years ago as well. Like these guys, it's not like if they go through a losing streak, they're just gone. Like, and I know I'm an Oilers fan, so it's just bias coming from me, but I think that is a legitimate question. When they're bringing in and using their power and using the team's money to bring in guys they specifically ask and want for, I find it hard to believe that a year later they're all going to be like, yeah, I know you signed here, Hyman, but peace out. It's easier to win in Buffalo. What?
So
it's easier to win in Buffalo?
I got to ask you this question. When did this meeting happen? In the summer?
Yeah, during the free agency.
And then Ken said, "Okay, who do you guys want here?"
Yeah, he said.
When did this happen? This past summer?
This past summer when they signed Hyman this past offseason. This is his first year with them. Evander Kane. You think of like 3 weeks ago when Evander Kane talked to McDavid and Draisaitl, they were saying, I know that's only a 1-year contract, but it's still a commitment to each other. You think they were saying, you know what? If things don't work out the rest of the year, we're out of here.
Yeah, but let's hypothetically say this. Let's say you're working with High Button Sports and I'm the manager. Well, I am the manager, I guess. And I go to you. I go, look, Jeff, who do you want to work here? Who's here? You, him. You pick the next 4 guys, and you pick them. I'm asking you only one question. I'm asking you a question of who do you want. I'm not asking a deeper question of how long are you going to stick around if things don't work out. Are you going to leave me? I'm asking you a question of who do you want. I'm not asking you a question if you're going to stay here. We all think differently. You could leave here thinking that podcast was shit, but you're telling me to my face, yeah, it's a great podcast. We all think things differently rather than just saying to one another, this is what I want. This is how I think we're going to win. I know I was like that in hockey. Like, yeah, it's great. I got my teammates here. It's awesome. But we all have individual thoughts of what could actually be the outcome here. You can't tell me McDavid isn't frustrated with, I guarantee, who was the manager before Ken?
Peter Chiarelli.
I guarantee Peter had the exact same conversation with McDavid. All right, listen, Connor, who do you want here? Do you know who do you want here? Who do you think we can win with? I guarantee that conversation's been had with both managers that he's had in Edmonton. And he says, okay, look, this is who I want. But McDavid's not a general manager. McDavid is a hockey player.
Dude,
McDavid doesn't know.
He's as close to a general manager as you're gonna get in the NHL. Dude,
McDavid does not know how to form a team.
He doesn't know, but he knows who he wants to play with, and he knows that his opinion is the biggest opinion in the room.
I'm not disagreeing with that. I'm not. You know who I want sitting here right now? I want Sidney Crosby sitting here. I want Brad Marchand there, and I want Nathan McKinnon here. Then I think we'll be the biggest podcast, and I think the biggest thing will ever happen if those 3 guys are here. Will it? Yeah, sure. We'll be good. It'll be a great podcast. It'll be really popular for a bit, and then it'll eventually die, and then eventually we'll just, you can't just ask me these questions.
I
think I'm onto something here.
I don't know. I'm following it with you.
It's a question that was asked to McDavid. Who do you want here? You said they asked the 4 guys.
It was a meeting.
It was a meeting, and it's okay. Who do you want here? These guys, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, great. We'll get them in. But that doesn't necessarily mean it's going to work.
It doesn't necessarily mean it's going to work, but it does show if they're saying, yes, we want you to commit to Hyman, we want you to get this guy. I find it hard to believe that a year later, and this is free agency too. This isn't trading. This isn't like Hyman had 0 say in this. This is Hyman sitting at home for weeks and weeks, messaging all his friends on Toronto, messaging all his friends around the league, all the potential friends he's got on teams, and making a decision. So when I see commitment from players like that, it puts my mind at ease. That's the only thought, because you asked me, do you think he's going to be gone next year? And that's all I'm saying. Does it work? Was it the best move? Is it surefire? No, I'm not saying that, but I'm just saying it's very like basically the way we got to look at it, and the way I'm looking at it right now is they've got 38 games till the end of the season, and they've got 3 years of McDavid and Draisaitl, and with contracts that overlap each other. And so the time rate is to win now, and they're clearly not. So that's what they've got to address. They don't got to address if McDavid's going to go to Buffalo next year. Or what about McDavid's best friend Darnell Nurse, who just signed a 9-year extension in Edmonton last year? You don't think he talked to McDavid beforehand and was like, "Hey buddy, you're going to be out of here in a year, like how are we feeling?" And obviously the captain of the team is not going to be like, "Yeah, I'm peacing." But I'm sure if these guys are as close as they say they are, there has been commitments made throughout the team that this is something to stick with. And I think friggin' Dave Tippett being gone is a good first step. They brought in the coach of the AHL team who's worked with all these guys. He's been there since 2016 as a video replay guy, Jay Woodcroft. He's worked with McDavid, Draisaitl, Nuge, Puljujarvi, Yamamoto, all these guys, all the young guys. So I have hope that this will turn it around. But like when I tell you I've been hearing, when's McDavid going to leave? For years, I'm like, for years, man. What they drafted him 2015, I probably first heard that in 2018 when they had their first shitty season with him. Or I guess they did bad their first year, did good in 2017, and then bad in 2018. I think probably 2018. So I've been hearing this question for 4 years. They're not like so. What am I supposed to say? Like it's first of all, Buffalo is ridiculous because they just traded away Eichel. So
that was so shocked. The tweet was so. Like I was like, that's why I didn't. I went to the schedule. I was like, oh, they must be playing in Buffalo. I was, what's going on?
Oh, I don't know. But does that make any sense? Like, you know what I mean? You know, like, commitments are being made within the team, and do they need to get better? Yes. Do they need goaltending? Yes. Do they need a solid right-hand defenseman? Yes. Do they need signs from the team that they are going to turn it around? Yes. But do I think McDavid is on his last string and any moment it could pop? I don't think right now. Ask me again in 2 years, and then it'll be like 6 years of me getting the same question.
So do you think sports are coming back in Nova Scotia soon?
I think they are, man.
Do you?
I think we're on our way here, right? We kind of sort of getting schedules in, kind of. People are trying to figure it out.
That's the thing. You know, I want to message all the teams who we have under contract and be like, okay, are we live streaming? Are we going? Are we good to go? But you have to remember that it takes, a day, 2 days, 3 days. It could take a week to get everyone's schedules back up and running, because in our calendar, yeah, we have all the games ready to go, but the games in our calendar right now are pretty much meaningless because not that rinks are shut down, but everyone's schedule has changed. So the schedule we have in there it's pointless.
I agree, man. There's a lot of games I think we can cut out of there now because even if they do come after the 14th, it's just such a crapshoot now with like the rinks and everything. Like I think probably every one of them will get rescheduled regardless, right?
Are parents allowed back in the rink?
Yes, they are. So it's like capacity, like 50% capacity, like what it was before for spectators.
But it'll be interesting if we're allowed to have tournaments in March. AKA Joel Montaigne.
It will be interesting because it was pretty clear that it was no tournaments for right now, but the March tournaments are a full month from now. So
that's the Joel Montaigne. There's teams that come from New Brunswick, PEI, Newfoundland, all over the place, and that's the thing about people coming and going. Is that allowed, or does everybody have to be vaccinated? Does everybody have to isolate? There's so many things up in the air when it comes to these phases. Phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, and they're saying phase 3 isn't going to come for another 2 months. So what phase do you have to be in for there to be a tournament?
I don't know. I'm trying not to get greedy. I'm
not trying to get greedy either. I'm just
You're curious.
I'm just curious. I would like to know.
Yeah. I think the fact that they were so evident on no tournaments right now kind of gives us a bit of an indicator that it would take a lot for them to come back.
Yeah.
But, I mean, you never know. Like I said, it's a month away. So it's like if things are rolling like they are now a month from now and regular season games are happening and playoffs are kicking up, then like what's kind of stopping it at that point, aside from the fact that their people are from other provinces and all that sort of thing.
I'm just at a loss to words.
I know.
It's been almost 3 years of this. When they did announce, okay, the restrictions are going to be lifted a little bit starting February 14th or whatever it was. There was no part of me that got excited.
Really?
No,
There was definitely a part of me.
I've seen this before. We've seen this before. When restrictions get lifted and okay, we're back to normal for a bit, and then boom, no more, nothing. So it's tough to get excited about these restrictions being lifted until you actually see them face to face, being, oh wow, okay, I don't have to leave a bar at 11 o'clock. I'm actually allowed to go to New Brunswick to do something. There's elements of life that need to be confronted to me in order for me to get excited, and I just don't see that happening anytime soon. You can get excited. Like, if you're excited about restrictions being lifted, that's awesome. I know hockey's coming back. The kids are going to be able to play. That's awesome. Parents are allowed back in the rink to see their kid. That's beautiful. That's a great part of life. That's awesome. There's just another part of me that knows we're not out of this thing yet, and I can't get excited.
You're a broken man when it comes to that, man.
Like, I'm not a broken man. No, I'm just a realistic man.
Okay, then realistic question. Like, do you get excited for anything anymore then?
That's a great question.
Because I think like you saying that is kind of just a trickle down of you just not letting yourself get excited for anything.
No, I do get excited for things. Of course I get excited for things. That's
okay.
I get excited, but recently, no.
That's what I'm saying. Like, have we, through this COVID and through all these ups and downs, have we lost the ability to like really, really get excited for something? Like, when we had the lowest moment, I'd say, was when we were trying to do the Vancouver trip. We were trying to figure out things we could do, and it was like I couldn't even, like, even if we were like as far close to the finish line as we got, like I wouldn't let myself get excited for that. So since then, I don't like that feeling. I don't want to be not able to get excited for things. Since then, it's kind of just like take it day by day. But like, if I'm being told games are going to be back and I'm going to be able to go back to doing commentary for these teams that I've actually gotten attached to, because I've done like all these games and I followed them like throughout this crazy year, then like, I'm just taking it like, okay, if you're telling me this is going on, then I'm going to start preparing and I'm going to just roll along. So I don't know. I guess I was a little excited. Do you know that it'll be almost 2 months to the day probably for our last game that we'll be back.
Really?
I think our last game was December 15th.
That's crazy.
And I did it in Bedford for the Barons. And I think
remember that game.
Yep, I think that was an emotional weekend too. And I think I think we're I think we'll be back exactly 2 months, probably like the 15th or the 16th, like by the looks of it. Like, that'll be 2 months, man.
That's what excites me, is progress. Probably the only thing that really excites me now. Progress and solving problems. And it's hard to have any progress and it's hard to solve problems when you're not going through a day-to-day routine of trying to grow a business. We can grow the business, but it's really tough from a studio and not being able to leave and do certain things that we think we're excelling at. So I'd say that's the only thing that really excites me, is progress and solving problems. And unless I'm doing that on a day-to-day basis, it's not.
I can tell that excites you, man. That
there's no better feeling.
That fires you up. I think you like being pushed to like.
Oh, I love
pushed
it.
to stress and pushed to having to like find a solution. Like, that's what you like.
I like proving myself wrong, There's a little doubt every now and then, but you can't let that doubt creep in. You go and you prove yourself wrong that you can do something. I don't know. To me, I think there's no better feeling.
That's what I like when I first started these streams with you, and you'd like ask me, you'd be like, okay, go to Dartmouth and like hook up this, or go here, hook up this rotor and like figure it out. Like, I remember when like there's been a couple times and I'm like, damn, I like think to myself, I'm like, this is like, I don't know where I'm going to start with this, but I'm like, there's either going to be two solutions when it comes Friday and this game's on. It's either going to be working or it's not. So like, whatever I could possibly do to like make it work on that day, then that's what's important. So it's like, to your point of, that's what gets you excited, like hitting a problem, knowing if you're not going to fix it yourself, then it ain't getting done. And then figuring it out and doing it, like, that's, I can definitely see why like that would be your source of excitement at this point in the business, because I feel it too.
Well, that's the sign of growth, or the sign of growth is solving problems.
Yeah,
that's, if you don't have problems on a day-to-day basis, you're not growing, I think. Like, though, it's great to have a company that runs smoothly, but there's no company out there in the world that runs smoothly without going through the trenches, excuse me, and having to solve a problem. We've solved a lot of problems. We've solved audio problems. We've solved video problems. We've solved live streaming problems. We've solved clothing problems. We've solved a lot of problems, but there's going to be a lot more problems that are
Oh,
going to happen to this company in the next couple of years. Like, another great problem we solved last summer was how to get Wi-Fi at a baseball field and how to set up a commentary in outdoors, dealing with audio issues, dealing with people screaming in the background. Like, there's so many issues that you have to go through when it comes to baseball and live streaming, but we figured it out. And I can't wait for these restrictions, or phase 3 or whatever they're calling it now, for it to be open for us to be able to go out and solve more problems, because that's how you grow.
dude, this business is literally, it's the business of solving problems. It took me a week into this company, and I already kind of knew from school, because we would do these big productions that like
Yeah.
20 people would be on, profs would be on. We prepare 5 weeks for. It's like your heart and soul. It's a 40% of your mark, and every single project had at least one thing go wrong with it, where you've got to think in the moment. So I was well aware of that. Like, coming in here, I was like, if you're getting into sport media, like, I don't know how aware you were, because you didn't go through school. You kind of just picked up for you and formed for you, like, more naturally. But like, when did you realize, like, the sport media and the media business is basically just solving problems all day long? Because that's what it is, right? Like,
Yeah.
it is.
It probably when this happened in March, because we didn't really do the live streaming stuff until COVID hit. So all the problems we were solving beforehand were just how to get podcast guests, how to get advertising, and how to get out of my mom's basement, really. But
yeah,
so until we started realizing that there was other avenues of the business that could help us grow, that's probably when I learned the problem solving thing, because I didn't really want to believe it. I just wanted to believe that I'm going to do this podcast and then I'm going to become rich and I'm going to have the best guests
Yeah.
on, and then, but then until like, when you're young, all you focus on is, okay, I got to make money to make this business work. But then all the trick is to forget about the money, focus on the work, and then the money will kind of come. So, but in order to focus on the work, like I just said, problems are going to come. So when the live streaming aspect of the business came, that's when the real work came in, and that's when the real problem solving skills came in. So probably 2020 is when I figured out that a lot of this business has to do with problem solving.
the first day I came in here, man, we were trying to figure out the live stream from this basement. We had all these pieces of like equipment. We've got all these cords, and you're just like, man, just like, I'm just work until we, like, let's just try things until it works. And you just try and try.
But now, how easily could we live stream right now from here?
Yeah.
Just it would take 2 seconds.
Yeah. So you're right. I guess it's like anytime you introduce something new, like on that scale of live streaming, then it's just problem, and then it's just like problem solving.
And you weren't even here during the time of the business where we were actually working tournaments without live stream. Like, we did tournaments and we would go do highlights on Twitter for the East Coast, the Ice Jam. And they didn't even know we were there at the very beginning. Like, we were just those random guys with cameras running around. They're like, who, High Button? Who's this running? Because it was John Moore that was like the video guy there. And we just kind of showed up with cameras and just thought, okay, let's just try to help. Like, they had no idea who we were. They, like, we weren't receiving any money. They were just like, I guess go for it. And I remember we did highlights one year for the Ice Jam on Twitter, and I think we got almost close to like 700 followers that weekend, or that week. It's a long tournament, just by doing highlights of big hits and goals and tagging teams and retweeting and parents reaching out. And I remember that aspect of the business was so much fun, because you got to see the growth. You got to see your actual Twitter followers go up. You actually got to see people interact with you from the Moncton AAA Flyers who never would have known you before. So there's things like of that element of the business that we haven't done in, like I said, 2 years, because we just haven't been able to. So I'm excited for you to see that element of the business within the next year. Hopefully, at phase 3, I don't know, whenever this comes back, because there's so many more things that we can be doing to bring value to people and teams and tournaments and businesses. There's so much more value.
Dude, we've put together some good business packages together in our short time together. It's a shame that none of them have really been able to be applied, right? Like, remember us sitting here, like, working our asses off putting these packages together?
Well, because each when I remember, I still made those packages pre-COVID, but now these packages during COVID have to change because these restrictions change. So it's these packages constantly have to be moving. We'll do this, but we can't do that because of this. it's a whole new world now. So these packages have these packages have to constantly be adjusted. But yeah, that's the name of the game. You got to push forward.
Man. It's a problem-solving business.
How much time are we at?
About an hour.
Hour?
A little less.
Do you want to say anything? We're going to wrap it up here.
I'm good, man. Go Oilers. Next year is the year.
Yeah, we'll see. All right, everyone, thank you very much for tuning in. Friday afternoon. Have fun. Work hard. Enjoy your weekend. I got nothing else to say. Here we go. We are out. Peace.